So, like when it comes to people who drive for Uber Eats, Lyft, a lot of times they may be coming from scenarios where they don't have to focus so much on taxes because a company may do it for them. They're coming from a job scenario. Then they enter the gig world, and it's kind of like, okay, I'm just going to start driving or making money with ride share or delivery.
Hmm.
And they don't realize the tools they have at their disposals, what deductions that they can use. So, what advice would you give to someone? Let's say I just got off from working at Amazon. I'm going to start driving for Uber. Like, what advice from a tax perspective would you go ahead and give that person?
Well, I got a question. Well, let me make this statement first. So sometimes people that do gig work, gig economy, kind of get fooled, right? Because it's a gig. Usually, when you say gig, it's affiliated with work, 9 to 5, 8 to 12, some kind of overnight shift. But in the actuality, you're an actual business owner, and so you should start to think of yourself as a business owner and conduct yourself as a business owner. Now, to address your question, if you got off from Amazon and then went to Uber, so are they an employee at Amazon or are they a 1099 worker? Because there's plenty of people that are delivering for Amazon as well that are part of the overall gig economy. So which I don't want to give the wrong answer here.
All right, let's one is an employee for Amazon, and for whatever reason, quitting, so they decide to go full time and they're driving for Uber or Lyft or something like that.
Well, I'll say this before you go full time with any gig type situation, Uber, Lyft, Grubhub, Uber Eats, and any of those. Think about what you're leaving behind at your job. Think about if there are any benefits, health benefits, right? A lot of times a lot of our gig economy workers are younger. There are older ones out there, but a lot of them are younger. They don't think about health insurance. They don't think about medical coverage. They don't think about any of that because, when you're young, you think you're invisible, rightly so. Like, I'm not mad at that. But
Mhm.
just think about this. If you ever get sick, and young people do get sick, sadly, how are you going to pay for it? Right. And would you be better off just working your job, maintaining your benefits, saving your money, and maybe kind of doing your side hustle or your gig or your Uber on the side instead of going full time? Which one is going to maximize you getting the most money in your pocket along with the most, let's say, tangible benefits? Because even though healthcare is intangible, I call it tangible because when you go to the doctor, you can actually feel that bill when you right. So, but just kind of run through all those different scenarios. Now, this doesn't qualify for people who work in toxic environments. If you are in a toxic environment, leave because that toxic environment is killing your health anyway. So it's no need in staying there. Now, I talk to some people sometimes and they feel that it's a toxic environment because their boss asked them to do some work. I say that's what you're there for, right? You're trading your time to get their dollars. But if you have a boss that does that and you do your work and you do it reasonably well, and then they want to talk to you all kinds of ways and berate you and give you ungood work conditions, then yeah, you should leave. You should leave. Rock out, go somewhere else, figure it out. Life's not worth the shortcomings of that. But to answer your questions, right? What should you be thinking about? So number one, when you work a 9 to 5 and you get paid, it's mandatory that they take taxes out of your check. When you work 9 to 5, let's say now you're working 9 to 5 for yourself. You are your own boss. Uber or Lyft or any of those folks do not take taxes out of your check. And I see a lot of people get jammed up. So you have to be pretty disciplined when you do this because, again, you are a business owner. You're not a gig worker. You're not a 1099 contractor or employee. You are a business owner, even though you make it a 1099, right? Even though they may call you a gig worker, you are a business owner. And so you are entitled to all the tax deductions that any business owner would have, whether you are a LLC, corporation, a partnership, any of those things. You yourself, as a gig worker, as a driver, or any of those things, are entitled to all your business tax write-offs, whether it be mileage, whether it be food, like let's say you do some kind of business meeting. Maybe you say, you know what, I can take my Uber hustle and I can actually parlay this into a real business, doing some kind of transportation services, and you meet with someone who's going to send you clients. You can write that off. Now, you can write off you just going to McDonald's. That's not a legitimate write-off. Right. But you can write off if you take, again, this guy or gal who has great relationships in the transportation field. Maybe they know a lot of consultants, a lot of executives who need transportation to the airport, to the train station, to jobs, maybe sometimes interstate. By the way, I used to drive Uber and Lyft. So I'm speaking about this firsthand. Right. So when I was driving Uber and Lyft, I always kind of I would think about the real benefits, right? Because I always felt that unless you're really, really, really in a great area, in a great spot that's really busy, I think the advantages are more geared towards the company. However, some of the relationships that you meet doing that can be priceless. And can lead to a lot of other things. So when I did it, I wound up getting some consultants because I got lucky meeting some consultants, some lawyers who would take, like, say, the same train and had to be to the train at the same time. And they didn't want to wait. They didn't want to wait to try to get a driver through the app. And so they said, hey, you're pretty nice. Would you like to be in my house at 6 o'clock every day? Get me to the train station by 6:30, and I'll pay you XYZ, and it'll be outside of the app. Yes. Now, technically, you're supposed to pay tax on that. I know the platforms do not look favorably upon that.
They really don't.
That's why I'm giving the disclaimer. That's why I don't do it anymore. So I get my statute of limitations is up. My statute of limitations is up. But listen, it's a great way to build. You could build a book of business. If I was I actually like to drive. So I said to myself, if I really wanted to do this, I would go buy a nice car, maybe like a Chrysler 300 or maybe a Lincoln or a Cadillac or maybe even an SUV, right? And I would start building clientele by marketing to lawyers and accountants and consultants, people who travel a lot, who don't want to necessarily wait for the Uber and Lyft. There is a great possibility there. Yes, everybody's going to kind of lean on the Lyfts and the Ubers. However, there are a group of people who just want the convenience of someone being there when they're ready to go, someone to drop them off, and then someone to pick them up when they're ready to come back. So I would look at it as a real business opportunity. I wouldn't just look at it as just something to do.
You brought up a good point about when it comes to health insurance. And for those of y'all that are listening from a financial nap is directly geared towards young adults and even the app lifestyle. I've looked at my demographics, and a large portion of my demographics are between 25 and 35. So just as young people, you want to really take that in consideration before you, quote unquote, leave the 9 to 5 and go off and do this gig stuff. It should be looked at as a side hustle in general. And if you do end up doing it full time, have a game plan for it to be temporary while you get something else off the ground. Yeah. And as far as driving people from point A to point B, I used to do that a lot. I say the technical way is to do it inside the app, so you'll be covered by your Uber and Lyft's commercial insurance. But building your steady clientele, having them call you, and then going there, then they keep requesting until they're a driver. That could be a good way to build your network and make money.
Yep.
And a lot of people